Come on in. Welcome. Welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. I'm Lady Trinette Wilson. And listen, y'all, I've been absent for a little while. I've been doing a lot of work, as a social historian, and I am the founder of the largest etiquette association in the nation, serving urban communities. I have been swamped. I have been growing my association, yay, as well as traveling the country, speaking, talking about etiquette, doing classes all around the country. So it's been a great ride and exciting time. I want to thank everybody for your support. And now it's time to get back into some Black history. As you know, I love to talk about the Royal Black and Elite here on this channel because, we have a lot of negative stuff out there already. So it's a pleasure to bring it from the other side, the royal side. So after my unplanned hiatus, I had to come back with some fire. I want to introduce you to Prince Hall, the founder of the Masons, the Freemasons in the United States. So before we get into Prince Hall, let's get into a little bit of history about the Freemasons. I'm sure we've all heard of the secret handshakes and the secret hand signs and signals that they do, as well as the really elite people who are a part of the Masons, the writings that no one knows about unless you're a Freemason. So there's a lot of secrecy around the Freemasons. So let's get a little bit of history on them, and then we'll talk about Prince Hall, a black man who founded the Freemasons here in America. Now, the history of the Freemasons begins in England, and this is the first Grand Lodge of London in Westminster. The Freemasons originally began as a fraternal order of stonemasons, but now that's not a requirement. Now, it says when they first began, you couldn't talk, they had all these rules. You couldn't talk about religion, you couldn't talk about politics, you couldn't have women, and today you still can't have women in the Freemasons, but all these lodges have different rules, and they're said that there's no one grand hall that controls them all. However, they all do participate in varying degrees of masonry, including craft degrees and rituals. So there are some rules that they all follow as an organization. Now, this first Grand Hall Lodge of London, it began back in 1717. But what happened is it went through a division. So they fell out, but by the year 1813, they had come back together again. And so that's where we get the Grand Lodge of England. Now, the first lodge in United States wasn't founded until 1715, but it wasn't recognized by England until 1738. So these places, this organization, the Masons, have a very deep, old, and ancient, really, background. Starting in England and then coming into America. And then you will find that there are Masons all over the world. Now, though Freemasonry was growing all over the world, the age old thing, racism, existed. So blacks were not included in Freemasonry. They couldn't become Freemasons. However, there was a man during that time, and many other men during that time who were wealthy, who wanted some of the advantages of being a Mason. And one such man was Prince Hall. Now, Prince Hall, his childhood, not much is said about it, not much is really known about it. In fact, his birthday is just traditionally celebrated. They don't really know when it is, but it is celebrated on September the 14th. And he is believed to have been born in 1738 in Bridgeton, Barbados. So, shout out to all of my Barbados friends and subscribers, as well as all of our Bridgeton fans. So, you think people come up with stuff, just by accident, but there are really names out there like that. So, that's where he was believed to have been born. Now, historian Charles H. Wesley theorized that actually Hall was enslaved around 11 years old, and he was put into the service of a Boston tanner, and his name was William Hall. But by 1770, he was a free young man. So that's great. And in 1762, at 27, he joined the Congregational Church. Now, it is believed he married an enslaved woman in 1769, 1770. Some say her name was Sarah Ritchie, so there's some question around that. But we do know he was a widower, and after her death, he remarried again to a lady named Sylvia Ward Hall. Now, another article in Africanus in America by PBS, it stated he married a servant named Delia, and they had a son named Primus in 1756. So, like I said, his background is real shaky. But what we do know, in Boston, he worked as a peddler, a caterer, and a leather worker. And he also learned how to open up his own leather shop. So he owned his own leather shop. He was a homeowner and he paid his taxes and voted. So Hall was really civic and really active in politics, and he really wanted to join the Freemasons because of all they had to offer after the American Revolution has really picked it up. And so him and 14 other free black men petitioned England for admittance to the all-white Boston St. John's Lodge. You know they were turned down. However, he was inducted into Masonry in the Lodge number 441 of the Grand Lodge of Ireland in March of 1775. So he did reach his goal to become a Mason. Now, even though they were in and they were Masons, about a year later, since the conflict between America and England started heating up, the British Foot Infantry left Boston along with this lodge, leaving Prince Hall and his associates without a lodge. And so they weren't able to really be Masons anymore, or really have a lodge. So they still were there, but they weren't able to bury their dead, as a Mason. And they were not permitted to have to do any Masonic work or take in any new members. So, Prince Hall was not having that. But under it, it was organized on July 3rd, 1776. And Prince Hall was named Worshipful Master. So even though they didn't really respect him on the England side, here in America they really did because he was one of the six men who fought in the Revolutionary War, one of the six black men who fought in the Revolutionary War. So he was well respected and he didn't stop. He kept petitioning England for official membership into the Masonry. And on September 29th, 1784, he was granted his wish. He founded the first lodge for blacks in America. Now, it grew. I mean, it grew exponentially because there were black men in this country who had money and who wanted to belong to something, to have a brotherhood, if you will, to belong to a brotherhood. And so there you go. Because the fraternities weren't even founded into the early 1900s. We're talking about way back in 1784. Prince Hall was so well respected, in 1791, he was appointed Provisional Grand Master, which is really a high rank, I guess, in the Mason. So he was really doing well. In 1797, he founded two more. He organized two more lodges in Philadelphia and one in Rhode Island. So these lodges were designated to work under the same charter that he worked under. And even though they worked under the same number, they had different names. So they had like the Harem Lodge, the African Grand Lodge, the Boston Lodge. So they had different names. But in 1847, out of respect for Prince Hall, they all changed their name to Prince Hall. So all the Prince Hall Grand Lodge. And so that's why you see Prince Hall on all of the African American lodges here in America. So, out of his vision over 200 years ago to establish this organization, today the Masons in America number over 5,000 lodges and 47 lodges. And there's about 500,000 members, all out of the vision of Prince Hall, who passed away on December the 4th, 1807, in Boston, Massachusetts. Some say of cancer. And so that's what it is believed he died of. Had a look at these beautiful monuments to him and the work that he has done. And then, of course, his name is Prince Hall on every Mason building in the country. And here's some pictures of some Masons. The great singer Nat King Cole, also the first Black Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall. We also see Cab Calloway here, all of whom said they work for the same thing: liberty, equality, and peace. Well, we've seen the work, most of the civil rights movements, a lot of things you see came out of these Masons, the Black Masons in America. So we salute Prince Hall for his hard work. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson. Another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. Remember, this is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and I ask you to hit the like, subscribe, and share button. And don't forget to leave me a comment because I always want to hear what you have to say. And today, my sources were blackpast.com, PBS, and Wikipedia. Now, I can't wait to share with you our next episode of Royal Black and Elite, and I appreciate you sticking with me.